Good morning, everyone. Our Ash Wednesday gospel lesson is from Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 6 and 16 through 21. Be careful that you don't practice your religion in front of people to draw their attention. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Whenever you give to the poor, don't blow your trumpet as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may get praise from people. I assure you, that's the only reward they'll get. But when you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that you may give to the poor in secret. Your Father who sees what you do in secret will reward you. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. They love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners so that people will see them. I assure you, that's the only reward they'll get. But when you pray, go to your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is present in that secret place. Your Father who sees what you do in secret will reward you. And when you fast, don't put on a sad face like the hypocrites. They distort their faces so people will know they are fasting. I assure you that they have their reward. When you fast, brush your hair and wash your face. Then you won't look like you are fasting to people, but only to your Father who is present in that secret place. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Stop collecting treasures for your own benefit on earth, where moth and rust eat them and where thieves break in and steal them. Instead, collect treasures for yourself in heaven, where moth and rust don't eat them and where thieves don't break in and steal them. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. In times like this, where there's not much to do and there's nowhere to go, it's easy to live in your head. You have more time on your hands to think about life, and sometimes you think about lighthearted stuff, like why does it snow so much here? And why are Oreos so addictive? And why, I wonder if my dog really likes me. You know, sometimes though, our thoughts can move away from the lighthearted into the sad. You know, like, will the winter really ever end? Will life return to normal one day? And what will I do with my life in the time that I'm allowed? On Ash Wednesday, today, we are acknowledging what we already know, but what we try to forget, and that is that our lives are limited. This year, though, remembering life's limitations and that our time here is not forever has been kind of hard to ignore anyways. 2020 could be called a lot of things, but for me, it seems that it's been a never-ending reminder of how fragile life can be, of how limited our lives and time to use them are. And while there is no escaping the fragile parts of living, I think that in this beginning of the season of Lent, it would be good for us to focus on a far greater danger than death. That danger is that we can waste our precious and fragile lives on things that do not matter at all. In this season of stress, I find myself looking for an escape, and many times that leads me to screens, and which at best can lead to a few moments of zoned out peace, but more often leads me to hours down a rabbit hole of worry where I wonder where my time went and why I am still stressed. You know, other times I focus so much on everything going on all the goals that I've set for myself and my family, that I forget to stop and ponder whether those goals and directions are worth pursuing, whether I am headed in the right direction, whether when I am in a nursing home in my old age with nothing else but my memories, will I be proud of the way I lived and loved and led the precious life that I was given. In today's gospel passage, Jesus steers his hearers away from frivolous faith and foolish living. In essence, he states that faith is more than escape or a way to prove that we are holier or better than others. It is more than collecting blessings and avoiding hardship. Faith, instead, is our guiding principle in life that helps steer us away from trivial living and instead leads us in our judgment of what is worthwhile and life-giving, what is worthy of our precious and limited time. Friends, you and I on this Ash Wednesday are here to acknowledge our mortality, to remember the hard truth that we are human, that we are imperfect, that we are mortal. We're reminding ourselves that our time here is limited. We're acknowledging that one day there won't be a tomorrow to worry about. And we're stating the obvious but easy to ignore truth that someday our bodies will return to the dust from which they have come. And it may sound gloomy and dark, but in this remembrance of our mortality, we are preparing for the joy that is to come. 40 days from now, we will celebrate the hope that is to come in Easter. But today we are repenting and preparing, knowing that we will celebrate the resurrection, the defeat of sin and death, and our hope for life eternal. Today, we are marking ourselves with the cross, acknowledging our sin, but in doing so, we are stating that in these 40 days of Lent, we will journey with Christ to the cross of Good Friday so that we, too, can celebrate with him at his resurrection on Easter Sunday. Today, we are beginning our journey home to the truth of God, that our lives are too precious to waste foolishly, frivolously, or any other way. For we, the imperfect people of God, are made from precious dust. And one day, to that dust, we shall return. These 40 days of realignment, thinking, praying, and asking for God's direction. And we examine what is worthwhile. What gives us that fire in our bones that leads us to life.